Okay, so part 5 of the series on IndexedDB. What we're going to be doing now is loading test data. So this is great that I've got some data in here that I can work with when I'm doing my deletes and my updates. But what if I wanted to do a whole bunch of testing and deleting a whole bunch of data, and then I had nothing left inside of here to work with? Or what if I was coming in and I wanted to test the read capabilities and displaying of this list, but I didn't have any data? So test data, very important. So I'm going to show you how to do that very quickly and easily. What I've done to set this up, I started with the script that we had in part 4, but I've added one new file right here, data.js. It is just an array with a series of objects in it. And all I've done is copied and pasted the data from the browser into here, so I've got a copy of that data. Now, I can change this. I can make it anything I want. I can add new data. Come in here, we can edit things, whatever it is that we want to do. So I've got this data ready to use in my main JavaScript file, app.js. I'm going to import this. So I'm going to import that variable from here. So this array is going to be in the variable state. Now you can call it anything you want. You don't have to call it state, but that's what I'm doing. Now, we've got a couple of events that are happening right at the very beginning when our page loads. We've got upgrade needed if I'm ever versioning the database. So if I'm going to go from version 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and so on, I can do that. And that's very useful if I want to change the structure, if I want to create a new store, if I want to create some indexes, which is what we're going to be doing in our next video. But it's not going to work for putting data inside there. While we're in this function, when the upgrade needed event has fired, we're not allowed to actually put data in or remove data or do anything with the data itself that's in the store. We're just versioning the database, checking the indexes, checking the structure of the database. So that leaves us the success. This success is going to happen every time the page loads. So I hit refresh. Every time it happens, success occurs. If I change the version number, so I go to version 2, then I get the update and the success. And if I refresh again, all we have is the success. Okay, so let's go into the success. And what we want to do is we want to check and see, do we have something imported? If we do have something imported, let's create a transaction. Let's get that data. Let's compare what's in the database with this array, and then proceed from that point. Now, we are doing build list. This is when the page loads, when the database is open, when it's ready to be used, we're going to build the list. So we're going to do this, but we want to make sure that we're doing this after the fact, after things have been loaded. So I'm going to check for this variable right here, this state variable. We're going to look for that. We're going to say if type of state does not equal undefined, so this means there is a variable state, something has been imported. And that way I've got control over whether or not I'm going to be importing data. I can just comment this line out and still everything's fine. Everything works. The list is still built. No changes have been made there. Okay, so if I do have that data, then what I want to do is I want to look at that data. I'm going to find out how much is there. I'm going to look at what's in the database right now and find out, hey, do I have the same number of records? If I do, well, that's going to be my signal that everything is fine. If I don't have the same number of records, then I'm going to add all the stuff that's inside of data. Now, I don't want to delete. You may, if you want, in your transaction, you may want to delete the data that's there and replace it with the test data. You can do that as well. You would just add the delete as the first step in the process. What I'm going to do is I'm going to check what's in there. If it doesn't match the length, I'm going to assume that there's some stuff that I want to keep. I'm just going to add some more. So first step, always create a transaction. And we're going to use our built-in transaction creation function with the error handling built in. And this is where we're going to call build list as well. So my transaction, if you remember from the first video, the transaction is a wrapper around everything that we do with the database. So if I'm doing an insert, an update, a delete, a getAll, after I've done one or more of those things, then I get the transaction complete. So after I have either deleted what's inside there, or I've retrieved everything and I've compared the length to see if I've got the right things, then I'm going to build the list. Then I know, okay, what's in the database is the right thing, and I'm going to update it. So we've got our onComplete, we've got our transactions. Let's do our store. There we are. We have all the records. So when this request is complete, when I have request on success, this is the point where I know how many records I've got. So if my puppies, I don't know if you can hear in the background, you probably can, they're concerned that there's somebody out on the street in front of the house. All right. So if the length of what's in there is 0, or the alternative, we can say, or instead of this, we can say if ev.target.result.length does not equal state.length, so a couple of options here. If you wanted to do the, hey, I'm going to delete everything and replace it, this is where you would do that up here. We would say let request equal store delete is going to let us delete one record. We've got deleteIndex. If you wanted to delete, say, number 0 or number 4 or whatever index number you wanted inside there. But if you want to get rid of everything, clear is the method that we want. So we have delete, deleteIndex, and clear. These are the three ways of removing data from the store. We're going to use clear here if we wanted to get rid of everything. If you want to keep it, retrieve it all, and then see, okay, is it empty, or if it doesn't match this, whatever your conditions are for adding the test data. You can do it multiple ways, but whatever your conditions are, then at this point, I know now, okay, if I've passed this if statement, I want to insert the data. So how do we do that? Well, state is an array. If we look inside of here, state is an array of objects. So we're going to loop through it using for each. And for each one of those objects, we're going to do an add. Same sort of thing as here. We can use the same store variable, but we're going to create a new request variable inside of here just so we don't conflict with this one. So let rec equal store dot add, and then what is it you want to add? I want to add this object. There we have it. So we are adding each of those objects inside of a loop. And when that request object is successful, I'm going to just write out a message. There we go. And you should add your on-error handlers as well. Now, transaction, there is an abort method that you can use inside of here. This you can use actually anywhere. Abort is going to do the same thing. When you get an error, the error is going to bubble up to the error handler for the transaction that's inside of our make transaction function. This is another way. If for some reason at some point you wanted to kill whatever it is you're doing, just another thing to throw out for you. The abort method allows you to kill a transaction. All right, so we have here, we're going to do getAll to see how many things are there. If there's nothing in the database, then I'm going to use that as my decision to loop through and add the store data, the state data that we checked for right here. If the state exists, we're looping through it, and we're going to insert every one of those. Once all of those are done, so inside the success handler, this is where we're going to do the loop to insert each of those records. When all of those are done, that is when the complete will happen. So we're going to see all of these add to objects show up 4 times before the finished adding the data, and that's when the build list is going to happen. So those 4 records were the ones that we had in there originally. They weren't added by our code. This one right here, the added to object, we never saw this. So this isn't happening, but this one is. We're passing this condition because state was imported. We do have a variable called state, but we're just saying, hey, when the transaction is complete, when you do the getAll, okay, we did the getAll, we found out that, hey, you know what? There is some data in there, so I'm not going to bother doing the inserts. And this was finished, and therefore it jumped up to here. Now, if I want to actually run this code, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to click on this, which is the same as calling the clear method. All my data is now gone. There's nothing inside there. Hit refresh, it's gone. But when I refresh the page, data may be stale. There we go. We added the 4 records, and these are the 4 that are coming from that data file. If I come over here, sure enough, 4 times added an object. And there's the list. So if we come in here, clear it all out, nothing there. So there's no data in here. Refresh, the page loaded, and I still got this because this is the data that we just inserted. All right, and that is how you add test data. So the finished version of this script is going to be linked to down in the description. The link to the full playlist about IndexedDB is down in the description. If you have any questions about this, feel free to leave those in the comments. I'll answer as many as I have time for. We've got more videos on IndexedDB coming up, still to come in the series. So keep watching, and as always, thanks for watching.